Hello everybody, Chaz Large here with another Fix It video for you, and back with something a little bit odd. No, not necessarily odd, but something we don't see that often, and that's a turntable record player. This is basically just a plain turntable. It's a BEOGRAM 1000, and it's come in with the problem is it's running slow, and it takes a long time to get up to speed. So we'll have a little look at this. It's quite a nice looking unit, and the customer wants to get it going again because he loves his vinyl, as do I. I quite like vinyl. I won't go into the arguments. Right, so let's take the lid off, and be careful with the lid because obviously that is the most fragile piece of the equipment, and we'll put that somewhere nice and safe. Now it seems to have a strobe on the top here. So if we have a look overhead, we can see there's a strobe disc on the top. I'm not sure whether that's actually going to work effectively because my lights, although they're 50 hertz, they're LED lights. So that may not be working properly, but I've got an app on my phone that can tell rotational speed. So that's what we'll do. We'll plug it in and we'll see exactly what happens when we turn it on. As we move the arm off the holder, indeed it is turning very slowly indeed, and he says it will speed up eventually. Now at the moment it's set to 33. We've got 33, we've got 45 and 78, and it's not making a lot of difference. So the way normal these turntables operate is you have a spindle with various sizes of spindle on it, and then you have a belt, and then you have a mechanism to lift the belt up and down. As I turn the wheel, you can see that belt is obviously well and truly stretched. So I think what we need to do is to get a new belt for this. But in the meantime, I think the next thing I want to do is to take the motor out and just see if the motor is actually getting up to a reasonable speed. And then if it is, then we can just order a belt, and hopefully that should be the be all and end all of it. So hopefully that will allow us to get things going. So let's take this motor out if we can. I'm just wondering whether the best way of doing this is to actually take the whole deck out from above. So I'm just going to release those clamps, 3 clamp screws for the cables. Deck mounting screws. And we should be able to lift the deck free of the wooden surround. If I turn it sideways like so, I can lift the surround off the top of the deck and out of the way. Let's pop that down there carefully. So now we can just release the motor. The motor should come clear. I'll drop the belt off of there. Now, there's springs which are tensioning the motor bearings, so we should be able to lift those clear. And the whole lot should now drop clear. Ah, of course, forgot the control knob. Which I think is just push fitted. Yep, it is. And that comes away like so. Now we should be able to turn that over. Making sure we don't lose various bits and pieces. And I think rather than rest it on there, I think I'll just get a little box or something. Handy piece of wood. Let's just pop that under that edge there, just so we're not resting on the tone arm. Right, so this is what we've got then. We've got the motor, which is there, and we've got on the spindle of the motor, as I mentioned before, we've got three it's just 1, 2, 3 edges, three separate diameter shafts on the actual pin. So as you turn the speed up and down, what it's doing is this jockey wheel is going against those three. So, and that moves up and down, and we've got a secondary control in the middle of that, which I'm assuming is a very fine adjustment of something. I'm not sure what it's, how it can adjust anything, but it would seem to adjust something. Ah, it's adjusting a spring tension on there, which is somehow affecting that. I can't quite see how that... Ah, is it affecting... That could be interesting. This secondary speed control, which is on the top of presumably fine speed control on the motor there. Just the focus again, we're a bit out of focus here. Go there. This control is so fine. Right, so we've got a secondary speed control, and what that's doing is this adjusting this mechanism here, which is adjusting that. Now presumably that is connected in the motor with some, I don't know, perhaps adjusting the position of magnets, which is fine-tuning the speed. Don't know. Difficult to know. Right, now if I power this on, I've got to be careful because this is the effectively the on-off switch here. So when you move the tone arm around, that enables this panel to close up, and that connects the power. So I've got to be careful I don't touch that while I'm doing experimenting of the motor. So I'm going to have to release the tone arm from my wire clamp so that I can do that. Yeah, so you can see as I take the tone arm off, that opens and closes. Darn, focus again. Yeah, so as I take the tone arm off of that, we've got a pin in the middle of the tone arm clamp which goes up and down. So that's off, that's on. So when that's on, those two are connected, so presumably that's live mains going through there. Yeah, because it seems to come from there. Got a resistor there, which is part of the, I would say, it's sort of like a shunt, stopping the surge of mains. Right, so, okay, so I've got it in on mode, and the motor is turning. And I would say that that motor has not got a lot of power. Now the motor's turning because I've got the power enabled, and I'm not putting a lot of pressure on there, but when I first turned it on, I could slow it down quite easily. Now it's been going for a little while, it's actually got a lot stronger. So I'm thinking that the bearings on here, on this motor, need to be lubricated. I'm hoping that that will do it. Then all we need to do is get a belt. Right. So the motor itself, yeah, I think the best way of dealing with this is to take this mechanism off of here, which seems to all come off with this circlip. Another circlip. Ah, damn circlips. Really need those circlip pliers back. Whoever borrowed them, please return them. Not that anybody that is watching this is going to know who they are, because I probably lost them 20 years ago. I'm easing this circlip off. I don't want it to go flying off across the room and being lost in the mess that is the floor of this workshop. And it is a mess. When the summer comes and I can get in here for longer periods, because at the moment it's winter and it's -2 outside, and I've got a radiator going full belt down here to keep my feet toasty warm. And I don't spend very long in here, hence the lack of videos. Those circuit pliers. I might treat myself to a set for my birthday. In fact, I only placed an order on AliExpress yesterday. I could have probably got some then. Never mind. eBay will have some. Okay, I think I got it lifted up enough that I can use the pliers to lift it up further. This is totally the wrong way of removing circlips. Those of you engineers out there will be screaming, saying, "Don't do it, you're going to send that flying." But I haven't got the tool. At last we get the circlip off. So now I'm pretty sure the speed control mechanism he says should lift up there. That middle part's separate to this bit here. Oh, is it or isn't it? Yeah, it is, but it's just full of grease. Right. That's all gunged up. Needs releasing. I'm not going to touch that wire unless I have to. So we've now got this mechanism held onto the motor by that, and that plate there is separate, but that spindle is part of that plate, isn't it? On top of that plate. Ah yes, you can see when you look at it down here, it's like a clutch, that okay, right, attack it from a different angle. Main bearings underneath and we can get at it. Should have looked at that before. So when I did television servicing back in the late 60s, early 70s, there wasn't a lot about mechanics. What you knew from metalwork classes at school. So there's our main bearing. Nice little rubber mounted bearing in there, but dry as a bone. Not even a touch of grease on it. So let's give it a clean. Okay, right, I have now successfully soaked this bearing in some oil and boiled it as per the thing I was telling you about earlier on. So let's pop this back on the shaft of the motor. Wipe off the excess. Now I've also soaked the fibre washer quite extensively in oil as well. Not sure how soft that's become. Actually, it's become quite pliable. Not as pliable as it did before, as it was originally, I should say. So, but it's certainly more pliable. So let's pop that right on the bottom of the bearing plate there, and the bearing should actually sit in that and be held down, so we take it off of there. But of course, before I forget, we need to put the thrust washer, which I took out and cleaned. I can grab it in my tweezers without dropping it. There it is. So it's a little plastic thrust washer. It has got a bit of an indentation in it, which I'm going to put the other way around. So it's the indentation that was there is at the top rather than below. And it's just flipped itself over. Thank you very much. Let's see if I can just take that out. which it doesn't seem to want to come now. There it is. So if I hold it up gently, you should be able to see that it's not quite flat. So the indentation bit is of this side, so I'm going to put that towards the bottom there. Just mop up that oil a little bit. Just come off that washer. Put a little bit of bearing grease in the middle of it. Use the tweezers, why not? There we are, I've got a little bit of bearing grease, clean those off. Paper towel coming to the fore once again. Then put the bearing itself on there, and the fibre washer which holds it in place on there, and then the cap that goes over the top of that goes back on there. Push that in slightly. Come on. Came out, go in. There it is. That's that back in place. And that's now a bit springy. So hopefully I can now just push these pieces over. Like that, to hold that bearing in place. Flatten them down. And that's the bearing. Hopefully made a lot better. Pop that back on there. Put the cover on the grease. Put the oil out of the way. Put the two washers. Two nuts. They're both in place. Tighten them up. And we are done with that little exercise. Now, if this works, we should be almost jumping for joy. If it doesn't, well, I don't know quite what we're going to do, but anyway, let's cross that bridge as and when we come to it. Right, so that's the deck mounted on the plate. Wipe the fingers again because we're getting remnants of oil everywhere. We can clean all this off in a minute. But we're going to plug it in. We're at 33 1/3. Let's switch it on. And that came up virtually straight away. There was no sluggishness of it. And it's strobing quite nicely at nearly 33 1/3. Get my little application. Measuring RPM speed. I'll put a little cap in the middle. and pop that on there. Oops. Oh, look at that. 33.8. Definitely 33. Let's turn it up to 45. Oh, I think we fixed it. .33. So let's switch it off. Right, so it's 0. So let's see how quickly it gets up to 33. Within a couple of revolutions. That'll do me. Right. I think we're done. So, all that remains really is for me to put all the screws back in, put the bottom plate back on, call the customer. That's been an interesting little exercise. So, thank you very much for watching this little video and the trials of getting this B&O 1000 turntable up and running to the right speed. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I will be back with another video very soon. I've got some more bits lined up to do. So thanks a lot. Cheerio for now.